Here is the story of a night that should have been ordinary. A simple gathering between friends. A game night filled with laughter, snacks, and familiar company. But on March 18th, 2022, inside a quiet townhouse on Hillside Court in Raventon, Ohio, everything changed. What began as a comforting tradition ended with a scream so sharp that neighbors paused their televisions and looked out their windows. By 11:42 p.m., paramedics rushed through the front door of Ben and Carla Whitford's home, the lights painting harsh white streaks across the living room where everyone stood frozen in shock. When they reached the backyard, they found one person, already still, already cold. A young woman, beloved for her kindness, her gentle humor, her steady presence. 27-year-old Lilah Grace Hartwood, someone whose life should have stretched decades longer, was gone. Her story didn't begin with danger, nor with fear, nor with anything that could have predicted such an ending. It began in a small, pale blue house in Brookhaven, Ohio, with a porch swing her father built by hand. Lilah was born on May 12, 1994, the youngest daughter of Paul and Elaine Hartwood. Her childhood was filled with simple beauty, warm breakfasts on school mornings, library trips every Saturday, chalk drawings on the driveway, and hours spent collecting flowers to press between pages of old books. Her mother remembers her as soft-spoken, but never afraid to speak kindness, a girl who looked people in the eye and made them feel noticed. Her father recalls the way she always helped the little kids on the playground, even when she was just a child herself. That instinct to care for others eventually led her into early childhood education. After graduating from Briarvale College in 2016, she became a teaching aide at Maple Creek Elementary. She worked with special needs students, children who required patience, creativity, and someone who could see potential where others might only see challenges. Lilah had the gift for that. Co-workers described her as intuitive and calming, someone with a voice that could settle even the most distressed child. Parents trusted her instantly. Her circle of close friends formed in college: Haley Pierce, Jordan Sloan, and siblings Ben and Carla Whitford. They were an inseparable group, connected by shared humor, matching anxieties, and a loyalty that often surprised other people. Their traditions were small but sacred: yearly hikes, potlucks built around terrible recipes, and the most important of all, game nights. Those nights were pure comfort to Lilah. She never missed one. She often said that game night made her feel like everything was okay, even when life was overwhelming. It was predictable, safe, full of people who loved her exactly as she was. And on March 18th, 2022, that's where she was headed, hoping to escape the growing tension that had begun to consume her relationship. A relationship that started beautifully, like many tragic stories do. In August 2021, Lilah agreed to join a trivia league night with a coworker. She expected nothing more than a fun night, maybe some awkward moments when she didn't know an answer. Instead, she met a man whose charm drew the room toward him. His name was Derrick Voss, a 31-year-old warehouse supervisor with broad shoulders, confident posture, and a smile that seemed practiced but convincing. He had an easy presence, greeting strangers with familiarity, cracking jokes, buying drinks for teammates. And when he saw Lilah, he locked onto her immediately. He complimented her laugh, asked about her job, teased her for being the smartest on the team, and made sure she walked out of the bar with his number. Within days, they were messaging constantly. Within weeks, they were meeting for coffee, dinners, and weekend outings. By late September, they were officially a couple. Her friends liked him at first. Or, at the very least, they saw no reason not to. He brought Lilah flowers at work. He surprised her with her favorite pastries. He talked openly about his feelings and said all the things that made her feel appreciated, adored even. But beneath the surface, something else was forming. The red flags came quietly at first. Small comments about her male coworkers, questions about who she texted, a slight frown when she mentioned plans with friends. He didn't yell or demand, he sighed, acted hurt, made himself appear vulnerable. Lilah, who always wanted to comfort people, began adjusting her plans to soothe him. She said no to certain outings, stayed home some weekends, spent more time reassuring him. By December, those small signs had grown stronger. He messaged frequently during her work hours. He needed constant updates. He expressed jealousy over harmless interactions. He questioned her when she didn't respond quickly. Still, Lilah believed he was simply insecure, that he just needed more love, more reassurance. She didn't yet see how those seeds of control had begun to wrap around her life, but her friends noticed her pulling away. Jordan once told her, "You seem tired lately." Not just physically, emotionally tired. Lilah brushed it off. Then, in February, something happened that she couldn't hide. She went for coffee with Haley, a perfectly normal outing she had done countless times before. But during that 2-hour visit, Derrick sent 22 messages, some sweet, some needy, some accusing, some demanding. When she returned home, he confronted her. He accused her of lying, of hiding something. He insisted on seeing her phone. When she refused, he punished her with silence for 2 full days of ignoring her. Lilah cried to her sister about it, unsure what she had done wrong, desperate to fix something that wasn't hers to fix. But still, she stayed. She believed in forgiveness. She believed people could change. She believed he just needed support. In early March, Derrick's control tightened. He questioned what she wore. He criticized her friends. He checked her phone when she wasn't looking. He suggested she quit her job, something that shocked her, her friends, and anyone who knew how much she loved her students. But through all of it, she kept one part of her life that Derrick hadn't taken: game night. It was her refuge, her reminder of who she used to be, and she was determined not to miss the one on March 18th. That evening, she arrived at Ben and Carla's house at 7:58 p.m. She looked beautiful, despite the stress she'd been under, hair in a loose braid, wearing a green sweater that brought out the warmth in her eyes. Ben later said she had that spark again, the one he hadn't seen in weeks. For the first couple of hours, Lilah laughed, joked, played cards, and recited trivia answers with the confidence she used to carry effortlessly. She felt more like herself than she had in a long time. Then, at 9:17 p.m., her phone buzzed. She froze when she saw the name. "Where are you?" She turned the phone face down, but he kept texting. "Why aren't you answering? You're ignoring me. I know you're with them. I'm coming. Why didn't you tell me? Answer me now." Her hands trembled. Haley told her she didn't have to let him ruin her night. Jordan reminded her that she wasn't obligated to open the door. Lilah nodded, but fear had already taken root. At 10:32 p.m., headlights flooded the living room curtains. The knock that followed was loud, sharp, authoritative. 3 hits that echoed through the whole house. Carla opened the door before anyone could stop her, not knowing what waited on the other side. Derrick stood there, smiling too widely, eyes sharp despite the curve of his lips. "I just want to talk to Lilah," he said, but his tone made the room go cold. Lilah stepped outside, apologizing instinctively, always apologizing. The door closed behind them. Her friends exchanged anxious looks. The muffled conversation outside grew louder. Ben cracked the door open and saw Derrick looming over her, his finger inches from her face, anger twisting his expression. Lilah kept saying she was sorry. She insisted she just needed a minute to calm him down. She said she'd be right back. Then she walked with him toward his car, the last time her friends ever saw her alive. What happened between 10:45 p.m. and 11:41 p.m. has been reconstructed by detectives through messages, witnesses, and forensic evidence. At 10:45, Lilah got into his car willingly. At 10:52, neighbors heard raised voices and a car door slam. At 11:03, Derrick drove the car behind the row of townhouses in an area with no lighting, no cameras, no witnesses. At 11:14, a man walking his dog heard a scream, sharp and panicked, cut off suddenly. At 11:18, Derrick returned to the front of the townhouse row, banging on Ben and Carla's door, shouting that Lilah was hurt and they needed to call 911. Ben ran with him while Carla placed the call. Behind the townhouses, they found Lilah lying on her side in the dirt, her sweater torn, her bracelet snapped, her hair tangled and dusted with soil. Bruises were already forming. Deep scratches lined her arms, defensive wounds. Derrick kept repeating, "She tripped. It was an accident. She tripped." Paramedics arrived at 11:42, tried to resuscitate her, and pronounced her dead minutes later. The injuries were immediately suspicious blunt force trauma inconsistent with a fall. At the police station, Derrick's story shifted over and over. First, she slipped. Then, she got emotional. Then, she attacked him. Then, he pushed her accidentally. But detectives quickly uncovered the truth Derrick had hidden from Lilah. 2 past girlfriends had filed restraining orders against him between 2017 and 2019. Both described him as manipulative, controlling, explosive when jealous. Their statements sounded eerily similar to what Lilah's friends had witnessed. Phone records revealed messages Derrick sent in the moments leading up to her death. "You did this. It's your fault. You made me come." These were not the words of a man trying to resolve a conflict peacefully. On March 20th, police arrested him for murder. The trial began the following January in 2023. Prosecutors presented the timeline with chilling clarity: the patterns of control, the escalation, the isolation, the confrontation, and the fatal violence. Friends testified to Lilah's fear. Forensic experts testified that her injuries were caused by significant force. The restraining orders from Derrick's past solidified a pattern of dangerous behavior. The defense argued it was an accident that Lilah lost her balance, that Derrick panicked, but the jury didn't believe him. After 7 hours of deliberation, they found Derrick guilty on all charges. The judge sentenced him to 38 years in prison. Derrick showed no emotion. Lilah's family, shattered but determined, refused to let her story end with tragedy. In June 2023, they founded the Lilah Grace Foundation, dedicated to educating young adults about coercive control, emotional manipulation, and early warning signs of abusive behavior. Her mother began speaking at schools. Her father started hosting workshops for parents. Her friends, still grieving, organized an annual game night fundraiser where they play her favorite games and leave an empty chair at the table for her. Every year, they say her name. Every year, they celebrate her life. Every year, they remind people of the gentle, patient, compassionate woman who deserved so much more. Lilah's story is a reminder that danger does not always arrive violently. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it apologizes. Sometimes it sends flowers. Sometimes it pretends to be love. If you or someone you know feels controlled, monitored, isolated, or afraid, please reach out to someone. Trust the voice inside that says something is wrong. You are not overreacting. You deserve safety. You deserve respect. You deserve a life as full and beautiful as the one Lilah never got to finish. If this story moved you, please comment, like, and subscribe. Your engagement helps share Lilah's legacy and may help someone recognize the signs before it's too late.